beautiful day out there so far. Hard to believe that in just a few short hours things are going to change quite a bit. We get some mixture of some rain and snow and some messy conditions coming in, and so it's not bad though. Again, we'll take the rain. I'll take the rain and the warmer temperatures over the snow any day of the week. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will open the phone lines in about an hour's time, and a reminder: it's Thursday, so that means the last hour. We will be having we'll have our Ask the Vet segment on with Dr. Jeff Goodall. So always a popular segment. We'll do that from noon until 1. So if you've got pet-related questions, that'd be a great opportunity for you to get some advice from Dr. Jeff Goodall, who's always great and always engaging, and we appreciate his time. British Prime Minister will visit that White House today. He'll try to convince U.S. President Donald Trump that peace in Ukraine will endure only if Kyiv and European leaders are at the negotiating table along with Moscow. Keir Starmer's meeting with Trump comes as Trump's aggressive push to find an end to Russia's war in Ukraine has left much of Europe concerned that the U.S. administration is willing to concede too much to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump's warning to Russia and sudden shift in foreign policy has unsettled America's historic allies. So the United States continues to alienate itself, but it's interesting as much as it does and as bombastic and confrontational and erratic at times as Donald Trump is, the world leaders still seem to want to go to Washington and kiss the ring, including Zelensky. I guess they see it as a necessary evil. Interesting that now in fairness, we don't have a prime minister really in the best position right now, with Justin Trudeau on the way out in a matter of just a couple of weeks now at this point. But chiding him, constantly calling him Governor Trudeau, 51st state. I mean, this whole routine. And are tariffs coming next week? Are they not? On, off? How sustainable is this going to be for the next 4 years? I don't know how we can sustain this. I don't know how we can change the channel on all of this. But we got to figure something out because this is out of control. Anyway, some things that you can talk about when we open the phone lines. I got a number of things in the pile, of course. And thanks to Vanessa Van Ness on the other side of the glass at the control board, doing a fine job as always. Now joining us for a chat is Claudia Chender, leader of the official opposition here in Nova Scotia, leader of the NDP, of course. Claudia Chender, I don't even know where to start at this point. I got so many things I want to talk to you about, but how are you?
I'm okay, Todd. Thanks for having me.
All right. So again, where to start? This 2/3 supermajority. Boy, oh boy! It looks like they're gonna milk that for all it's worth. I would say, based on what we've seen so far. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really kind of shocking to see what's unfolded in the legislature in the short time we've been in there. This is the government's first session, and you and I talked in the campaign about the things Nova Scotians were worried about: healthcare, affordability, certainly top of the stack, housing. We haven't seen anything on any of that, Todd. What we've seen is this government move to reduce accountability, move to centralize control, and move to make a whole bunch of decisions as quickly as they can that they frankly weren't elected to make. So it's been a difficult few days.
Yeah, for sure. And tell us about this letter. I think we should talk about this letter that was sent out by Leah Martin and to members of her constituency, I guess, or party faithful. And it really is. It brings up it provided some insight that was a bit shocking as far as I'm concerned. And including it hits right at the heart of transparency. Let everybody know about this PC party fundraising letter that's got some people concerned, including you guys.
Yeah, well, that letter was not normal. I've never seen anything like it. And I know you opened the hour talking about what's happening down south and those worrying trends. Those are happening here in Canada too. And I think this letter gives us some echoes right here in Nova Scotia. So, Leah Martin, who ironically was given the cabinet portfolio of Communications Nova Scotia, which she immediately dissolved. That was the government's nonpartisan communications arm. So now everyone who works for government in a communications capacity is appointed politically. And so once she did that, she sent a letter to everyone on the PC mailing list soliciting donations to, among other things, bypass the media. And that's a direct quote. Mm-hmm. And I think that really should send a chill through Nova Scotians. This is, this government that has a mandate, that has a majority, that frankly can pretty much do whatever they want, isn't satisfied with that. They want to make sure that they also control the message and that the public doesn't actually have an unbiased view of things as they unfold. And so, they want to bypass the media. They want to stop special interests. You and I have talked about that, but that's a really important one because it seems like special interests are anyone they don't like or who might have a different view of what they're doing. And of course, we have a diverse province. People are going to have different views. And it's really, really concerning. And the Premier has yet to answer a question about it.
All right, and this whole kind of flap over them not scrumming outside of the house anymore and going across the street and doing the media availability across the street. What do you think that is an example of this, or what are your thoughts on that?
As I said, this is all a pattern. It's very clear that the government has come in with a singular mission, which is to control the message and to evade accountability. I'm sure that's not how they would frame it, but it's absolutely true that that's what's going on. And so I think that's of a piece. The Premier doesn't want to answer questions in the legislature where things are unfolding because he doesn't want the media in that building. And so far he hasn't been successful in that. But I think we all need to be watching very closely. This last election had the lowest voter turnout in history. I think that was by design. And we're continuing to see that design unfold, which is nothing to see here, folks, while the government makes huge changes that are going to impact the lives of Nova Scotians for generations to come. And whatever you think about that, at the very least, the government absolutely has the duty to keep Nova Scotians informed about that and to be transparent about the ways in which they are governing, and they are steadfastly refusing to do that.
Okay, you say by design. Explain what you mean by that, by design.
Well, I think, if we're going back to the election, obviously, this one of the things in the bill that would threaten the Auditor General and the FOIPOP officer also repeals the fixed election date, which is hysterical, really. Mm-hmm. That was the government's first bill. You and I talked about it at the time. Then they ignored it. They called an election when nobody was ready for it, when there was a Canada Post strike and nobody knew how to vote. And they, had the lowest voter turnout, and that benefited them. And now, they're threatening the Auditor General, who criticizes their work. They're threatening the Freedom of Information and Privacy Officer, who gives Nova Scotians information. And they're openly threatening the media, who need to deliver a message about what they see unfolding and are, incredibly constrained in doing that. It feels like it's all part of a package, and I think it's something Nova Scotians should be really concerned about.
Okay, so when all is said and done, what can you do? Again, with this 2/3 majority, the government will do what it'll do, I guess. And in fairness, I suppose they did back down. Tim Houston did back down on the changes to the Auditor General after immense pressure, obviously, but an about face nonetheless. What are your thoughts? Any credit goes to there? What are your thoughts?
All credit goes to Nova Scotians who raise their voices. Todd, I have never, and it's surprising because mostly when you're talking about procedural things that have words like Auditor General in it, it's not something that gets Nova Scotians really engaged and interested. Yeah. And yet I received more emails in the last 2 weeks from every corner of this province, a lot of them from people who voted for this government, who said, this is not what I voted for. And so I think the silver lining, what can we do? Well, people's voices matter and can make a change. I don't think the Premier deserves much credit for walking back what was a dangerous and destructive proposal that was put forward without any consultation. but he did it because he was forced to by Nova Scotians. And to the extent that we were able to amplify the voices of those Nova Scotians, we were really proud to do that. And so in terms of what we can do, Nova Scotians can absolutely make their voices heard. And this is why we feel like it's so important, this conversation about the media, because Nova Scotians can only make their voices heard when they know what's going on. So we are doing our best to let folks know, and I know there's a lot of other people out there doing that too.
Okay, and in the same spirit of this, I saw this story on the CBC website this morning. Progressive Conservative MLAs used their supermajority in the Ledge Wednesday night to change the rules governing debate in the House. The story goes on to say opposition leaders say the move risks weakening debate, while government MLAs have said the changes are intended to make the operation of the Ledge more effective and efficient. Government House Leader Brendan McGuire introduced Resolution 5 last week, the same day the budget was tabled without any advance notice or consultation with opposition members. So this resolution will give the government the ability to limit the length of time for debate, a procedure known as time allocation. I mean, that to me is an affront to democracy. Why would you want to limit time? You would think when you've got this supermajority, you would look for sober second thought, perhaps, or make sure that you're not just drunk on power. This is when democracy needs to be emboldened. What are your thoughts?
Couldn't have said it better myself. And further, I would say that, when the Premier got up on election night and thanked his voters, he said he looked forward to less opposition. And I think that is exactly what this resolution is enacting. And one of the things that hasn't been reporting on, but I think is so important for your listeners, Todd, is that this, by a resolution in the House, normally this would be negotiated, the parties would talk about changes. These are rules that have been in place in one form or another for 200 years. So when we change them, which they need to be changed and modernized from time to time, the general procedure is that's collaborative. You have to talk about how does the House work, because it's not just for this government. These changes last forever until someone else can get 2/3 to change them. And what this does, Todd, among the things that you mentioned, is it also does away with the Law Amendments Committee. And this is the place where Nova Scotians from every corner of this province, where experts who are rarely consulted on bills by this government before they're introduced, can come and propose amendments that make the laws better. The sober second thought you're talking about, that committee has ceased to exist as of last night at 9 p.m. because this government decided that they couldn't handle, I mean, it's really absurd, Todd. They couldn't handle people coming and making suggestions on their legislation. Yeah. And this is not normal. This is not how this should be going, and it doesn't do a service to Nova Scotians. We heard no explanation of this change. We had lots of Tory MLAs who wanted to get up and talk about, how they didn't want the opposition to waste time. And obviously, I take issue with whether we're wasting time when we're bringing the voices of Nova Scotians into that chamber. But to this point of why they would limit the capacity of Nova Scotians, particularly Nova Scotians who spend their lives devoted to the topics that are being legislated, why they would prevent them from bringing amendments. They don't have to pass those amendments. They rarely do. They still have a majority in that committee, like you said, Todd, but they don't even want to hear it. And so, again, this goes back to this idea that you're with us or you're against us. If you don't agree with everything we say, you're a special interest, and we don't need to listen to you. And we need to find ways to bypass real information that would get to you. And it's really, really, at the risk of sounding dramatic, I would say yesterday was a sad day for democracy. It really was.
Yeah, and I thought you made a good point last week when a lot of this legislation was being tabled. I mean, the ledge doesn't sit enough. I think most people would agree with that. And the Premier was stumping out in Ontario with Doug Ford. And I thought you made a good point in that. Where are your priorities, Mr. Premier? I think that's a valid point.
Absolutely. I mean, we haven't talked about the whole tariff situation, but we support broadly the idea that we need to, work on interprovincial trade and dropping those barriers. But the idea that, Tim Houston is going to make that announcement in Milton, Ontario, on the campaign trail with Doug Ford, and not here in Nova Scotia, to the Nova Scotians who are so concerned about what the reality of those tariffs will mean for their paychecks and for their communities and for their families, I think it's insulting. And we still have yet to hear anything about a plan for the Nova Scotians who are going to be the most impacted. We're starting to hear dribs and drabs of, how sectors might be supported and businesses, and that's so important for our economy. But we also need to understand what's going to happen to the workers who stand to be laid off, to the communities who stand to lose employers. And it's been radio silence.
Claudia,
unless you said something in Ontario that we missed.
Yeah, that's right. Claudia, listen, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much, and we will chat again.
Okay, thanks so much, Todd.
All right, take care. That's Claudia Chender, Leader of the Opposition. By the way, Vanessa has reached out to the Premier, and we have invited him on the show, and we're told that perhaps next week we're going to be able to make that happen, because I want to give the Premier the opportunity to respond to all of this in the interest of balance, for sure. So that invitation is out there, and anytime the Premier wants to come on the show, he is certainly welcome, and has come on the show and fairly recently and taken calls. And again, I think that's does everybody a large benefit by doing so. I think that goes a long way, and I think you would agree out there listening. A Liberal bill would require considering wood heat for Nova Scotia public buildings. Iain Rankin when we come back. Iain Rankin, former Premier of the province, now a Liberal MLA, one of two Liberal MLAs, joins me on the show. Iain, thanks for joining the show.
Good morning, Todd. Great to be back on the show after a little while.
Indeed. Good to always have you. Always like to chat. The Wood Chip Heating Systems in Public Buildings Act. Tell us about this bill.
So it doesn't really require legislation, but as an opposition member, there are a few tools, and they're actually becoming less and less down at the House to bring forward issues that are important. And this is an initiative that started under previous government, and it really came from the Leahy report, which came out in 2018, that hasn't been talked about as much as of late, but is one of the many recommendations where it would give a benefit to the economy, and it would benefit the actual buildings, because you can have a more long-term source of fuel that's sourced locally. And it would basically look at the public buildings. There's 9 of them that we put in place, but it would transfer the heating system they have now, which is predominantly a fossil fuel source, oil or natural gas, to a more locally sustainably product, which is basically wood.
Okay, what I guess when you say that it would be adhered to the Leahy report, what sustainable forestry practices, why does it qualify as sustainable? Because some people would suggest that burning wood is perhaps a step backwards from a net neutral target that we're working towards when it comes to carbon. Why does this work, and why does it comply with the sustainable forestry practices?
Right, that's getting right to the core of it. So it is called biomass, and I think sometimes that gets misinterpreted as heat or using wood for energy, which has been an inefficient system in the province, something like 20% efficient. So that is not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is small wood heat projects that are above 90% efficient. And as long as the wood is harvested from an ecological practice, and in the Leahy report, it clearly lays out what that means, is if the wood comes off these wood lots and it's not simply clear cut and thrown into a boiler, that it actually is a net benefit to the environment, because this is the low value product coming off wood lots. This isn't wood that could be used for saw logs. And all of the types of different wood that comes off these lots need markets, and there's been a challenge finding markets for this part of the resource coming off wood lots. So this provides a market for it, and this is something that has taken place in parts of Europe for a long time, and even as nearby as Prince Edward Island has had huge success So when I was minister, I actually toured some of the places in PEI, and it does have a net benefit to the environment. And even some environmentalists have come on board and endorsed this recommendation too.
And if left in the forest, we know what happens with forest fires and dry tinder conditions, and that exacerbates this situation by leaving that there and not so that helps deal with that problem as well.
Exactly. So carbon gets emitted from things that are left on the ground, and as it decomposes, and in this way, there really is no emission, but it is taking a resource that it's a renewable resource. So as long, again, the condition that I had, why I support it, is that it would come off of places. It basically make sure that it's coming off from like thinning or restorative practices on the woodlots across the province. It's not dedicated, clear cut, and bringing it off the woodlot and feeding it into a boiler that's not efficient. So it's a totally different approach, and that's why Professor Leahy supported it, and it's just been hung up right now. So we have 9 projects, and then the PC government haven't approved any more, and there was a short list of about 100 different options across the province from publicly owned buildings. And it's important for the government to take a leadership role in this, to really kickstart a market that you see in other places throughout the world.
All right, Natural Resources Minister Tory Rushton, what's the response been from Rushton on this, if any?
Well, they haven't adopted any new systems. They are supportive of the Leahy report and the industry. So we'll see if this bill helps continue to push forward on the idea that this is part of the solution, and maybe the tariff issue can spark a new interest, because this, again, benefits a lot of rural communities. And so these projects that we created are throughout the whole province. And if we can help the forestry industry, if we can help from a leadership perspective for the cost of heating some of these buildings, if we can help the environment, I see it as a win-win-win. And so this is one opportunity that we'll be pushing for, and they're still in the House, so we'll see what he has to say moving forward.
Are you concerned that because it's not their idea, it won't see the light of day?
Well, they can make it their idea. Certainly that's always an element, but what we've often seen in our system is that opposition proposes ideas, and then the province, the government, will repackage them or adopt them the following year, the following budget. We've seen that with the lunch program that was advocated for by us and by the NDP, and the PC government has adopted that, and a whole bunch of other things. And that's how our system works. I know some of the tools for opposition have been diminished now with rule changes in the House and things of that nature, which is problematic, but we have to do what we can to make sure that we're putting forward ideas and hope that the government and the ministers listen to those.
Okay, quick email from Jeff. Just wanted to give you time to respond to this. Says, I hope that Iain understands that burning wood is becoming a costly method to heat a home and building. Here in the Valley, a single cord of wood now sells for $300 to $325. Why has the government, including his, pushed for heat pumps for homes but wants to burn wood? I think it's apples and oranges when it comes to this. A cord of wood is hardwood, and it's different than what you're talking about. And there's an economy of scale at play as well. What's your response to that quickly, Iain?
Correct, yeah. So the economy of scale is a big thing. So you have these large wood furnaces that can heat not only one building, but multiple buildings. And it's not going to be the right solution for everywhere. So heat pumps are an excellent solution. Solar, it can be combined actually too. But this is just one other renewable resource, and there's a cost-benefit analysis. This is about displacing a fossil fuel that's imported from another country with a resource that's made right here at home that benefits the economy. Right
on. Iain, always appreciate your time. Thanks so much. We'll talk again.
All the best, Todd.
All right, take care. Iain Rankin, former Premier of the province, Liberal MLA. When we come back, Halifax Harbour Bridges, they're going to remove the tolls. What's this mean for jobs and other things? We'll get all the latest on this from Stephen Proctor when we come back.
Thanks.
All right, lots of changes coming. Well, the big change is the removal of the tolls on our 2 bridges here in Halifax, the old bridge and the new bridge, as they call it, as I learned when I moved here 7 years ago, although the new bridge is pretty old. Right, Stephen Proctor?
Yes, good morning.
Stephen Proctor, Communications Manager at Halifax Harbour Bridges. And all right, so the timeline for the toll removal, just for those who don't know, is what?
Sure, it's April 1st. There's still, we do surveys, and there's still 20% of the population doesn't understand that the tolls are coming off April 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So
not an April Fool's joke.
Not an April Fool's joke. An opportunity for people to put a little bit more money in their pocket as they go about their business on the run of a day.
Are you expecting that it'll increase volume?
We don't know. There are certain other bridges where they've taken the tolls off and the traffic has increased. But those were tolls that were a little more substantial, $3-4. Will $1 make a difference? Has $1 prevented people from using the bridge to go zip over to Micmac Mall? We don't know. We're certainly prepared for it if it does happen. Yeah. And we're concerned about the impact that will have on the health of the McKay Bridge. So we're monitoring that very carefully. Right. We've got numbers from before, and we'll have numbers from after. The big difference for us will be the big trucks, because it's the big trucks that impact the health of the bridge. They put more strain on the bridge.
Right. Okay. All right. So as far as the revenue goes, and let's talk about your entity, the Crown Corporation.
Yes.
And because there's been some confusion about that, at least on my behalf. So let everybody know what's happening with the Crown Corp and all of that.
Right. So essentially, the only change that's happened is with regard to the collection of money. We used to be called a government entity, a government revenue generating entity. And because we're not generating revenue anymore, we're a reporting agency. But we still have the same structure. We still have the same staff. We have a board that we report to. Mm-hmm. That nothing in that way has changed.
Okay, which is good, which is because obviously maintenance schedules and tendering processes and partnerships within the engineering community, you would have all of those relationships.
Sure. We have the expertise in terms of the maintenance, in terms of the engineering, and it would be a real loss to lose that. But there's no hint that is happening. We're proceeding. We've got engineering plans that we're setting out for this year. Obviously, we're leaning hard on our maintenance people as we get ready for the removal of tolls on April 1st.
Okay. So what's it going to look like? Do the toll plazas coming down, and how does this all work?
Work in progress. We're working as hard as we possibly can to get the toll plazas down by April 1st. Not 100% sure that we can do that safely. We're working first and focusing on the McDonald Bridge because it's a little easier situation than the McKay with that sort of thing. But that is my key message to people is when you get to the toll plazas, they will look different. They will either not be there or there will be work going on to remove them. But you will need to be paying attention because it will look different. And people have been paying tolls for 70 years. People are not used to change, and we're advising people just be very careful as you approach the toll. The end state, particularly for McKay, is to have be able to come straight through there at 70 kilometers an hour off the bridge. You won't have any distractions and stuff like that. But it's going to take us a little while to get there. We're going to move as quickly as we can, but we have to do it safely and efficiently.
Okay, how you talk about it's a work in progress, but I'm trying to and the McDonald, like you said, it's slow traffic, and but the McKay, I mean, people are flying down off the highway there on both sides, and it's I see that as a potential bottleneck challenge.
Sure, and we do too. We recognize we're working with traffic staff and designers and engineers to come up with the exact best way that the roadway can function so it's free flow traffic.
Will there be renderings? Sorry to interrupt you. Will there be renderings available to the public as to what this will look like beforehand?
There's certainly, before we actually have something, that there'll be lots of communication with the public of what it's going to look like. But
I think that's important.
It'll be like driving on a highway. You're not going to have, like right now, you've got a lot of choices. You've got to choose this lane, that lane, and stuff like that. You're not going to have that situation. You're going to be just driving along just like you are on a normal highway.
Oh, I see. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And because
you mentioned the speeding. I just want to point at that. Like we understand that could be a problem. And so we have actually going to have an increased enforcement on those. Right now we have 10 bridge patrol people. We're going to be moving up to 14 because there's still going to be accidents on the bridge that we're going to have to respond to, and incidents on the pedways and the bikeways and stuff like that. So those people are all in place, going to be with us, and we're going to actually increase that. In the run up to this over the last month, we've increased our enforcement in terms of speeding, and that's another piece we're going to have. The other piece is people are going to sort of think, okay, the tolls are gone, so the rules are gone. No, that's not true. The rules stay the same. You can't have commercial vehicles on the McDonald Bridge, so they're going to have to stay on the McKay Bridge as they do now.
Okay, so operationally, the budget working, could this be a net benefit or a loss, or you don't know? I'm talking about revenue.
Right. Well, we don't collect revenue anymore.
I get that. So the bottom line is the revenue's coming from somewhere. So
right, and so we have always had to present a budget that is approved by the board and then approved by the provincial government. That position doesn't change, except we've lost our power to sort of do some independently borrowing and that sort of thing. We have to work through the province for that now.
All right. So the money that's owed still, because I'm sure you've got loans and all of that, is that stays within the Crown Corp?
No, the province is taking that over. In the budget statement that was early this month, they took that over.
Okay, so I would think that with the province underwriting it in that way, that might give you more flexibility when it comes to options.
Certainly, they've got a bigger pot of money that we can send. We create a convincing argument for a particular project. I'm sure that's an opportunity for us, for sure.
So what's your feeling? I mean, is this long overdue? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Well,
a good thing or bad thing? I mean, I guess when all is said and done, I know. Look, for me, it's $1.25, and I have a Mac Pass, I think people driving, it's a good thing, right?
I was looking out the window. My office looks over the McDonald Bridge.
Yeah.
And I was watching somebody as they approached the toll yesterday. And the arm came down because they didn't work or they lost their money or stuff like that. Yeah. The guy got out of the car, was going over. People were screaming at him, no, get back in your car. Don't do that. We'll open the gate and stuff like that. Free flow traffic has got to be more safe than that. We've done everything we can to do safety, but people still don't obey the rules or the signs. So we'll be eliminating a lot of things, and there will be money savings that go with it. You look at Metro Transit; they're not like we've been tolling their buses. They're going to be up $480,000 a year as a result of this.
How about to the Mac passes and making sure that people get reimbursed for overages and all that stuff?
Right, absolutely. Everybody who's got money into the Mac Pass, into their account,
it's like $30 or whatever.
They will get it back.
Yeah,
they will get it back. There's 200,000 accounts, so it's going to take us a while to return that all. We're going to return as much as we possibly can by credit cards. So we're urging people to now go onto the Mac Pass site. Make sure your credit card information is up to date, because we don't want to be returning money to some expired card or then stuff like that. So if your contacts are up to date, you will be getting your money then.
But if somebody's got an expired card and you're taking money from it still, then why can't you put money in it?
Well,
you see my point?
No, I see your point, but there's a systematic change behind the scenes that allows us to actually do that. But the bigger challenge is that we have about 20% of the people who come in and refill their card, but with cash.
Yeah,
and so we're going to have to, and there's 200,000, so it's just going to take some time. We're going to mechanize the process as much as we can.
I guess if you have the option to go online and go into your account and update your credit card account, you're potentially eliminating a problem.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So it seems to me that this is, again, a pretty good thing, a pretty proactive move, and I think moving forward. What about the bridge life expectancy? We've heard talks about how long these bridges are going to last. They're old, we know that. What's the long-term outlook here? Look decades out for the bridges here.
Well, in terms of the McDonald Bridge, we did the big lift. We put on the third lane. We used the opportunity. There's some projects that are immediately happening. It's got a 75-year lifespan in it, pretty much, if we get the work done that was required. McKay is in a little, although it's a newer bridge, we haven't put in the amount of maintenance into that we had. Just like buying a new car, the first few years it's all fine, but you need to put more. The older it is, the more maintenance you have to put in. Yeah. So we have a study that's coming out in the next 6 months that has been looking at the fitness, the McKay Bridge, and it says, can you rehabilitate it, or do we need a new bridge? And so we're working through that process right now. And depending on what those results say, we're obviously doing a lot of planning behind the scenes for if we need a new bridge, what can we do? Mm-hmm. If we have to rehabilitate, what can we do? So there's lots of conversations going on in this subject all the time.
But nothing within the next decade or so.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Okay. I wouldn't say that. It depends on the results of the study. It depends on the willingness of people to move forward with that kind of thing. We've eliminated things like, or we've done research that says like a tunnel, because people are going to say, oh, well, what about a tunnel? So we've done some research to say that a tunnel doesn't really work in Halifax.
Okay, here's an email question.
Yep.
From Ken. Says, I only cross the H-arm bridges about 20 times a year, so the cost to me is about $25. How much will I now pay at taxes to finance the bridges? I don't know if that, we're getting quite granular with that question.
That's not my question.
Yeah, okay. But
sorry.
But the spirit of the question, of course, is will the taxpayers bear more burden than they do now?
Well, absolutely, the $35 or $40 million that we used to collect has to be borne by somebody, and it is being borne by the government. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Okay. All right, Stephen, lots of good information. Anything we missed? While we got you here, make sure we covered all the bases.
No, I think we're good. Again, my messaging is just when you approach the tolls over the next couple of weeks, because we might even start sooner than April 1st because we have to take them down. Yeah. You might see some construction there. Pay attention to the signs. Be cautious. Be kind. Just be as cautious as you possibly can.
Yeah, and update your banking information.
And update your banking information for your MacPass.
Yeah. Okay, Stephen, thanks for coming in.
No problem. Thank you very much.
All right, take care. Stephen Proctor, Communications Manager at Halifax Harbour Bridges. The 9th Halifax Black Film Festival. We'll talk about that when we come back. All right, the 9th Halifax Black Film Festival, back in person and online to mark African Heritage Month, goes February 28th to March 4th. Joining us to get all the details on this is Fabienne Colas, president and founder of the Black Film Festivals in Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, Calgary, Vancouver, and of course here in Halifax. Thanks for joining the show. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Todd, for having me.
All right, so I guess there's lots of things to let everybody know about. So why don't you just, itemize on what you think you want people to know?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody in Halifax for supporting this festival for 9 years now. It's a growing movement, inclusive movement, where everybody can find something for themselves, whether it's comedy, drama, short films, documentary, whatever it is. And we're opening the festival this year with a film called Igualada. Igualada is the amazing, inspiring story of a Black woman from Colombia, Francia Marquez, and she took everybody by surprise by, launching a presidential campaign, and then she became Colombia's first Black prime minister right now, vice president. So this is fantastic. Her story is just inspiring, and it's for everybody. So we want people to get entertained, but in an impactful way. So that's a nice way to start the festival. And we have so many things also the whole weekend, I would say. Including panel discussions about filmmaking, social inclusion, and everything else. And then we also have the festival online and in person.
All right, so online, that means people can view all the movies online. And how do they do that?
Oh, Todd, let me tell you exactly how they do that. First of all, we created something amazing called a website. And then on our website, halifaxblackfilm.com, people can go and dive into the programming and then find out what they want to watch. They can buy all access passes, tickets, and everything else for in person, or they can buy their pass for online, okay? And if they want to watch online, because I know your show goes beyond Halifax, I mean, people from all over the place are listening. So if you guys cannot make the trip, that means you cannot be with us as of tomorrow and this weekend in Halifax, then, you know, stay home, grab your favorite PJs, and then watch the films online with your family. It's as, fantastic. And they get to support the movement and the festival and Black artists as well.
All right. Is there a cost?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, it costs an arm and a leg to put that together, but the audience is very lucky because we don't make them pay what it costs us to make. Thanks to our partners like TD Bank Group was the big supporter, and Telefilm Canada, and so many other partners. So they can buy an online all-access pass for $45 or an in-person all-access pass for only $39 or individual tickets for in-person, and they get to dive into this great programming. And then one of my favorites is our short film series called Being Black in Canada, mostly Being Black in Halifax, where we have emerging Black artists from all over Canada, all these beautiful cities that you mentioned before, including Halifax, and they get to premiere their first documentary short films that they've been developing with us at the Fabienne Colas Foundation the whole year, last year, and then they're premiering them. It's their Atlantic premieres on Saturday in the evening, so we invite everybody to come and support them and not wait until they get to the Oscars and say, oh my God, they're from Halifax, we love them. No. Come and see their premieres this Saturday.
How long are the films generally? Or I suppose it varies, but what's the average film length?
We have all kinds of films. We have feature films. We have short films. So films ranging from from maybe 7 minutes until 2 hours. So it depends on what you're in the mood to watching. And we also have free panel discussions from our Black Market series in the morning on Saturday as well, where everybody can come and dive and discuss and then meet some artists. So this festival, Todd, is more than just a festival. This is the necessary festival right here in Halifax right now because it gets, it gives the audience a chance to go and be exposed to films that they would not have been exposed to otherwise, and meet great artists from here, artists from abroad, and then spark great conversations and travel the world through films.
Okay, so again, if people want to know more about all of this, they want all the details, as you mentioned, you got the website, direct everybody to the website to where they can get all the details for this event.
Absolutely. HalifaxBlackFilm.com. The festival starts tomorrow, February 28th, and ends on March 4th. And then some days are in person and online, and some days are only online. So on the website, everybody is detailed. And then come and join us, whether virtually or in person, for a great, impactful experience.
Okay, great stuff. Thanks for your time, and hope it's a great success. I'm sure it will be. Thank you so much, Fabienne.
Thank you to you, Todd. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Fabienne Colas, president and founder of the Black Film Festival, which runs in Halifax this weekend. And then, again, check it out online for all the details. Now we got some time for you. What is on your mind on this Thursday? And the way to reach us is 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. Earlier in the show, I chatted with Claudia Chender, official opposition leader, who has some serious concerns about transparency or lack thereof, and accountability with the government, with the PC government, the Houston government. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, we have reached out to the Premier and hope to have the Premier on the show taking your calls perhaps next week. So in fairness, we'll balance this out. In the meantime, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with Claudia Chender? Do you think that this government, with its move to try and remove powers for the Auditor General, which they backtracked on, which I give them credit for doing so, the Privacy Commissioner as well, some other issues, concerns. What are your thoughts? Or do you support this government with a supermajority and say that you like a decisive government that's getting things done? 902-405-6000. You can talk about that or whatever else you'd like to get into. 902-405-6000. Your calls when we come back.
Thanks.
All right, taking your calls, 902-405-6000. Lots and lots to talk about, as always, 902-405-6000. I think that I will, one of the things I'll throw out there, I had a good chat with Stephen Proctor, Communications Manager at Halifax Harbour Bridges, that joined me here in studio and talked about the removal of the tolls on the McKay and McDonald bridges April 1st. Is that a good thing? Do you think that that's a good move that the government is making? I think that there's a lot of upside to it. Traffic flow is going to be a lot better. I think that there's a lot of upside to it. Of course, there's always the consideration of financing the bridges and maintaining the bridges, because I think the number was something like $35 million or whatever they bring in tolls. That's going to be that money will have to be replicated or replaced through taxpayers. So the Crown Corporation will remain the same, Halifax Harbour Bridges. That remains intact, but that revenue stream, they will have to go get it from the province. So is that a good thing? Do you think that it was a good move? I personally, as somebody who uses the bridges, look, it saves me $1.25. Why not? But I get the argument that people make that, okay, well, users should pay. I get that when it comes to infrastructure. And there's been talk about setting up tolls to get onto the peninsula. And I believe New York City has implemented something like that in order to get into Manhattan. And on the island, I do believe that, going off memory now, that there has been tolls established. So what are your thoughts on the removal of tolls? Do you think that perhaps that we should have more tolls instead of fewer tolls? Will you use the bridges more as a result of this? Of course, just one of the things you can talk about, 902-405-6000, that's the way to reach us. How about government accountability and transparency? Is the Houston government lacking, or has it demonstrated with its 2/3 supermajority that it has no interest in accountability or transparency? Because it appears as though it will maximize this 2/3 majority. Now, some people would say that that's a good thing. They have a supermajority, use it, and be decisive, and be aggressive, and get things done here in Nova Scotia, things that haven't been able to get done for decades and decades, like natural resource extraction and expansion. Or do you feel, like Claudia Chender does, who was on the show earlier, that the government is abusing this power, that it is not sticking to what its mandate and needs to be more accountable? 902-405-6000, that is the way to reach us. How about federally? Multiple polls now suggest the next federal election will be a tight race. At least one major pollster has the Liberals leading the Conservatives for the first time in nearly 4 years. A survey from Ipsos released this week suggests that if an election were held today, 38% of Canadians would support the Liberals, 36% would back the Conservatives. That's a major shift from just 6 weeks ago when the Conservatives held a 26-point lead in Ipsos polls. Leger's latest survey suggests the Conservatives have a 38% support, putting them 3 points ahead of Justin Trudeau's Liberals. Leger also asked respondents how they would vote if Mark Carney, the frontrunner in the race to replace Trudeau, were Liberal leader. In that scenario, Liberal support jumped to 40%, while Conservatives remained at 38%. What are your thoughts on what the polls are saying? Do you trust these polls? And what are your thoughts on what's happening federally? And also, of course, it wouldn't be a day if we didn't talk about the United States. U.S. President Donald Trump said again Wednesday he plans to hit Canada and Mexico with devastating duties, while a White House official confirmed on background that the tariff plans could change through negotiations. So it's on again, off again. How long can we sustain this whole thing? And what are your thoughts on some who feel as though that Donald Trump should be barred from the G7, not welcome to the G7? I think it was Charlie Angus the NDP and Jagmeet Singh out in front on this one? Do you feel as though that's the right approach, or is that really poking the bear? And when all is said and done, do we have to plug our nose and put up with Donald Trump being at these events? Do you have to, and unfortunately, kiss the ring? Because world leaders are going to Washington to do so, including Vladimir Zelensky tomorrow, I believe it is. So all of these things, or anything else you've got in your mind, give us a buzz. We've got some open lines for you. The way to reach us, 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. Hello, Tony. You are first up today.
Oh, my goodness. I want to talk about the two interviews you had with the opposition parties. I was kind of concerned here. I agree with you, and I agree with the NDP to a degree. But got to keep an eye on what the PCs are doing with information. I don't want my medical record out, but I do want access to it. I don't want my CRA record out. It's nobody's business, but I do want access to it. So I don't like that the PCs are fooling around with that to a degree. But, Todd, this morning, the NDP person who has been yelling about housing and homelessness and hunger and medical issues didn't mention one time. Not mentioned one time. Is that because the PCs are not doing anything? I don't know. I follow it. I assume that they are doing something there. And then Mr. Woodchips, that really, really got me. This is the most important thing in the world, is wood chips in buildings. Give me a break. Come on now, let's get real, people. There's bigger things.
Well, Tony, you could say that about anything, that there's always something else that you could perceive as being more important. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting forward the motion or the idea to look at it. What's wrong with that?
Well, what's wrong with that? It diverts from somebody not eating or having a home. That's what it is.
Well,
There's no problem with that.
Well, I get it, but it's still.
Let me finish. What's the cost? Well, it's going to support wood lots. Well, what's it going to take to rejig the buildings so that instead of using propane or whatever the case may be, oil, that now they're going to use wood chips? What's it going to cost to refigure those 11 buildings? How many houses could you build? How many people could you feed? Come on, Todd. Let's be real.
Well, Tony, I get your point, but look, you could say that about anything. That there's always something more important. It doesn't mean that these issues shouldn't be explored or don't merit a conversation.
Well, if that's all you got in your pocket, you better find another job as a politician. That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I think you asked about, didn't I? By the way, New York City is looking at repealing its.
The tolls. They do have tolls to get on the island, do they?
To get into Manhattan, yeah.
Manhattan, yeah.
Expensive too. They're damned expensive.
Yeah.
But at any rate, they're looking to repeal it because the people are not too happy with it, and that's democracy. That's democracy.
What are your thoughts?
Todd? I said to you that democracy prevailed on the issue that of the. Now I lost my train of thought. Yeah. The issue that was resolved over on Tuesday. So that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. I think your station did well. I think the people did well. That works. But there's a lot of things that, you'd like to put the referendum. I know I have a list. I could make a list of 20 people I'd like to put the referendum at every level of government. But are they realistic? Some of them are. Some of them are just what Tony would like to see. But at any rate, I think that the PCs, or the Liberals at least, and the NDP, who had power between up till 2009 or up to 13, and then the Liberals took over, should take a look at their previous agendas. What can you do that is dumped on the current government? And what is the current government doing to rectify those issues? And how much time is being taken to have to do that, in the government's day? I don't believe the government should be run willy-nilly, and I do believe the PCs, they have a little bit of a drunk on, but they got an awakening. They got a speeding ticket on Monday. So, I think the system's working, but I don't like the idea that people come on there and blast the government and not say what they're going to do to fix it. Because you know what they're going to do? They're going to poke the bear, like you said, and the bear is going to say, well, let me go back and look at what you did for since 2009 to 2021 when we came into power, and maybe we'll just take a little bit of chunk out of that. And confuse the issue as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Tony, listen. Appreciate your call as always, pal. Thanks.
All right, take care. Have a great day.
Okay,
Todd.
bud. Take care. 902-405-6000. We've got some open lines for you folks. Give us a call. What is on your mind on this Thursday? 902-405-6000. Your calls continue when we come back. All right, taking your calls. Got open lines for you folks. Give us a buzz, 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. Is this government, the Houston government, abusing its two-thirds supermajority? As Claudia Chender suggests that it is, not being transparent, not sticking to its mandate, not doing enough when it comes to housing and health care. And again, her opinion, and we will, by the way, as I mentioned, have the premier on the show, hopefully next week. We reached out to him. So what are your thoughts on that? Well, also, of course, Donald Trump. And there's the NDP, led by Jagmeet Singh, is calling for a ban on Trump at the G7 in Alberta later this year. Is that the right move? Some would say that, look, he's a convicted felon. That should disqualify him from coming into Canada anyway. And he has attacked our sovereignty directly, continues to belittle us, referring to Canada as the 51st state, Governor Trudeau, all of that routine. Economic warfare. Does that perhaps disqualify him, or should it disqualify him from coming to a G7 meeting here in Alberta in Canada? Or is that the wrong move? Would that just make things desperately worse and poke the bear, as they say? 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us. Again, 902-405-6000. Paulette, hello.
Hi. I don't know. I've been hearing news a bit lately, and Trump's very confusing. One minute he says April the 2nd, the turf. I won't do it April the 1st because he's whatever. And March 4th, and it seems like the White House is always correcting him. I'm starting to wonder who's in charge. Is Musk in control, or is Trump? I don't see what's going on there. Like, it doesn't make sense. And he changes his mind so much. And don't you find the White House is always correcting him?
Yeah, it's confusing, the line of command and who's in charge for sure. Ultimately, Trump would say that he's in charge and has given Musk a lot of authority and a lot of his cabinet authority and autonomy to govern. And look, I don't fundamentally think that that's necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, this is confusing. But this is part of his modus operandi, Paulette. Trump wants to keep people guessing. He wants to keep us on our toes. He wants to make life complicated. He wants to backtrack and then be unpredictable. That is he thinks, and obviously it's been working for him because it's got us jumping and it's got us talking about him every day, and it's got us basically at his whim, and but that is by design.
Well, there's something else, too. I'm trying to figure out something. Maybe I heard wrong the other week that Trump was going to make an agreement with Ukraine and stopping the war. I could be wrong on what I heard, and that he just wanted mineral rights. And then the other day, I thought I heard that he said that he had talked with him and he's getting the mineral rights, but it's not to make peace. Like, it sounded like to me it wasn't to make peace between Russia and Ukraine. It was just, hey, that's money you owe me back from what I gave you in what the government gave you in, like, tanks or whatever they gave them, and he is going to supply more stuff to him. It doesn't make sense if he's in friends with Putin. I don't understand what's going on there. It's confusing me.
Well, look, it sounds like you know as much as pretty much everybody else does in that mineral rights and that's at play. And Trump suggests that they've sunk hundreds of billions of dollars into Ukraine, into this war effort, and he feels as though that they should get some of that money back through minerals. It appears as though Vladimir Zelensky is warm to that idea, or will at least be open to part of negotiating that. How this plays out in a negotiation with Vladimir Putin, I don't know how it's all going to work. I have no idea. But anyway, it's to your point. It's confusing and it's day to day. And this again, I think, is part of his whole shtick, is to keep people on their toes, keep people guessing, and be unpredictable. Paulette.
But I thought he did. I could be wrong again, but I thought I heard he did sign with Ukraine, with Ukraine for the mineral rights, but for the past due. I just don't understand it. They're still going to go in and talk about something else, Ukraine and Trump.
Anyway, I'm not sure what else we can add. Thanks for the call, Paulette. I appreciate it. Take care. 902-405-6000. Fred, hello.
Yeah, good morning, Todd. Great morning out here to be driving around in the blue sky for now, anyway.
Yeah, it looks great out there.
With respect to Tim Houston, what I can't understand is he's got a supermajority. Why is he micromanaging? He does not need to turn around and go after the Auditor General. He does not need to go after, the public outcry or whatever, the newspaper, etc. I don't understand what he's doing other than hurting himself. Who's going to stop him if he decides to do something? Do I agree with what he is doing over the last few months? No. I believe there should be user pay on those bridges. I think your speaker said that there was, $30 to $40 million annual?
Yeah, I think it was $35 million in tolls they collect.
So roughly he's looking at $30 to $40 you're going to be charging somebody in Cape Breton that never uses that thing. And is he getting rid of the tolls in the Cobequid Pass? User pay again. That should be a user pay system. It worked well. I'm a professional driver. I can tell you right now, as soon as those toll bridges come off, if you don't think there's going to be a bottleneck going from Dartmouth to Halifax at 4 o'clock at night down in the Windsor Exchange, oh my God, you got another thing coming.
Why would there
going to shoot right through there?
Fred, let me ask you this: why would the removal of tolls create more of a problem? I would think it would ease traffic, would it not?
Well, no, it doesn't, because what it does is it slows traffic down a bit, allows it to catch up to itself on the bridge, unless there's an accident, obviously.
I see. Yeah.
But you're not zipping through at 70 kilometers coming to a full stop at the lights down on the Windsor Exchange.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, for sure.
So
it makes sense. I hadn't thought of it that way, Fred. That does make sense, for sure.
Yeah. And one last thing, with respect to Trump, is he not a convicted felon?
Yes.
And does he not want us to be hard on the border? And maybe we should make him jump through a few hoops asking for special permission to come into Canada, because last time I checked, convicted felons were not allowed in Canada.
Yeah, and this is at the heart of what Jagmeet Singh and the NDP are saying is why are we allowing a convicted felon into the country? But I don't know what the rules are. I don't know if he gets a presidential pardon or what. Fred, I would dare say that there's zero chance that he will be banned from taking part in the G7. I don't anticipate that happening. That would be a very bold move, but I would bet a lot of money it won't happen.
I say you're not banning him, but what you do is you put him on a video call.
Yeah.
And let him do it from the States.
Yeah. Okay, Fred. Thanks for the call, pal. All right, take care. 902-405-6000. Look, it's you got to plug your nose and let him come. That's my take on it. I just don't know that banning Trump from the G7 in Alberta later this year would be effective, impactful. I think for Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, it's easy to say. It's a good talking point, plays to their base. But I don't know that it would do any good, and I think it would probably do more harm than good. 902-405-6000. Give us a call, folks. Go to open lines for you again. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, taking your calls, 902-405-6000. That is the way to take part in the show, 902-405-6000. And the tariffs are back on. You just heard Blake read that story. So, my, oh my, it's just unbelievable. On again, off again. It'll probably change his mind next week or in the 11th hour again. Again, part of Donald Trump's modus operandi, part of his shtick, part of his bargaining arsenal, of course, is unpredictability. That just goes along with it. And look, it obviously has some effectiveness. It has us talking about him every single day. It has our Canadian delegates down in Washington daily pleading their case for why these tariffs will be a bad deal. Look, at some point you just have to say, you know what, call his bluff, do it. Just do it and get it over with, and let's see how it plays out. We're told that these tariffs will hurt the American consumers and the American economy, and it's going to be tough on Canada as well with reciprocal tariffs. But if we're going to do it, let's do it. It's kind of like the fight, right? Back when you were a kid, if you remember being a kid, back when I was a kid anyway, we fought from time to time, and I'm not advocating for that, by the way. But that was the culture in the 80s when you were a teenager. And you knew during the school hour or at some point that somebody wanted to go, we'd call it that. At some point, you just said, let's get this over with. Let's do this. I'm done anticipating, worrying. Let's go. And maybe at some point, we just needed to say that with Donald Trump. We're ready for the fight. Let's get this going. Let's find out how this is going to shake out. Because living in a state of fear and in a state of trepidation and precariousness is not going to get it done. It's not sustainable for 4 more years of this. We can't do it. 902-405-6000. I still don't think that we should ban him from the country. I think that would be a mistake. 902-405-6000. Quick email, then back to the phones. Jeff says this, we all know how petty Trump is. If we go out of our way to block his entry into Canada on a world stage, he will for sure make his mission to destroy our nation. And he says, I also agree with the caller who said that Trump and the White House are often on different pages. 902-405-6000. Jeff is giving us a call. Hello, Jeff.
Morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well, you?
Very well, thank you. I try to get your shows, listen to them all the time, but after the Four Nations Cup there, they had Gretzky and some other guy come out. He came out of the U.S. dressing room. I don't know if any of your callers brought it up. I might have missed one of your shows, but he thumbs up all the way down the bench to the U.S. players because one of the other guy with him had the U.S. He never had no Canadian jersey on. He thumbed us pretty good there, boy.
Well, I didn't pay that close attention, to be honest with you. I did find the whole Wayne Gretzky choice was a bit odd because of his relationship with Donald Trump, because he is controversial politically. I thought that was odd. I mean, look, he's the greatest hockey player to ever live. I believe that's a hands down argument. But I thought it was an odd choice. I didn't read his body language all that much, and I agree with you. I thought, why not throw a Canadian jersey on for sure?
Back to your roots, buddy, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and another thing, Todd, this rail that they're going to, whether it's speed train up into Quebec to where all the boats are, of course.
Yep.
How many billions did they say that was going to cost?
I can't remember. It might not see the light of day. That was a Hail Mary that Trudeau's thrown out there, trying to leave a legacy of some sort. Look, that's a long way from being a done deal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, why didn't he throw a little bit of money down to the border between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick?
Yeah, the isthmus, the Chignecto Isthmus.
Where's the money for that?
Yeah, that's right.
No votes down here, Todd.
Well, there you go, eh? Okay, Jeff, thanks for the call, pal.
Friends.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000. Look, I'm disappointed in Wayne Gretzky, I must say. But look, he's lived the better part of his life in the United States now. His wife is American, of course. And look, he's chummy with Donald Trump. They're buds. I don't know. Does that disqualify him from being a Canadian icon? I don't know. Maybe you think it does. 902-405-6000. Ashley, hello.
Hello. Thank you.
Sure.
I just wanted to call in. First of all, I love your show.
Thank you.
And I love the topic. I totally agree with everything you said there. I don't think that there's a snowball's chance in hell that Donald Trump isn't going to be allowed at the G7, nor do I think it's a good idea. I mean, just takes away our bargaining chip, makes us look short-sighted. But to every other point, I think it's important that Canadians sign the petition. We can send a message, even though at the end of the day, he's still going to come. And as it pertains to Trump, I co-own a business in the trades, and we have 20 to 30 people that work there. It's small, but most of our stuff does rely on the U.S., and we get a lot of it from Europe. So you can't avoid it. And I'm with you on, if you're going to threaten these tariffs and dangle it over our noses, just do it already.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I think our generation coming up is going to survive better, being more, seeing how we're dealing with things now and growing a better and stronger Canada. And it's going to be painful because we've been able to ignore it, but bring it on. Bring it on, because this is no way to live. We can't run businesses and go to work every day wondering if this business or that thing is going to be impacted. It's not productive.
No, I agree. Bring it on for sure. So are you concerned that this could hurt your business, Ashley?
It is going to hurt our business. Honestly, yeah. I hope it doesn't mean layoffs. We'll do everything we can to. Do you mind
if I ask what kind of business you have?
Yes, so we do maintenance and sales of air compressors in industrial buildings. So car manufacturers are our top customers. We do food processing plants. They all use air for packaging and tools and all that. So it's going to affect us across the board. And I mean, I hope other industry picks up where others lack. I think that's another thing about bring it on. You know what? We don't know. And I think that's why we're a bit nervous and we have no control, right? We can't, I don't know today or tomorrow are the tariffs coming. At the end of the day, I'm going to wake up every day and go to work. And I'd sure rather work with people who are on my side of the page.
Yeah.
So, I will safeguard jobs and do the best we can and move pays around so that everybody can come to work and feed their families. But that's what Canadians do. And I think we're about to see how strong we really can be and how united we are. It's been amazing. Even, we don't all share political beliefs, and that's been a struggle. But again, we share our country. So I think that matters.
Okay. Well said, Ashley. Thanks for the call. Call again.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. 902-405-6000. Emmett, hello.
Yes. Good morning, Todd.
Hi.
Glad to see you're back on deck and love your show.
Thank you, sir.
Just wanted to throw something out that's been thrown out for many, many years is Maritime or Atlantic Political Union. And it may be the time now that we're looking at these tariffs in all our provinces and the going away of that. Maybe it's time we did away with our 350 to 400,000 politicians and get it down to one healthcare system, one judicial system, and just see what that would do for us. We have two premiers that quit in the last week, and it's that's the kind of stuff we really don't need. But I think Maritime or Atlantic Union, which has been talked about, but the politicians don't like to talk about, would not be a bad time to start thinking about this. Maybe after this tariff thing goes away.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic concept. I really do. I've always thought that an Atlantic Union would be a good idea for a lot of reasons, some of which you've already covered. We're way overgoverned. We know that. We could definitely be much stronger as a union. And Emmett, look, I'm going to throw the reasons why I don't think it'll ever happen. I hate to be negative. But first and foremost, New Brunswick, and it's being bilingual, and I'm from New Brunswick, so I know the language issue is a mighty big issue there, and that would be first and foremost the first challenge that you would be dealing with. And people are so territorial, and governments wouldn't like to give up their own power. The governments of the day, But Emmett, I think if you could get through all of that and get on the other side of it, I think an Atlantic Union or Maritime Union would be a great idea. I love the idea.
Just one other thing. I spent a lot of time in the Annapolis Valley in the early 70s. I used to listen to the St. John radio station, and I always admired Ingham Palmer and all of the guys that were on in the news. And I see where you come from, and you come from a really good group of people, because that was a great radio station and still is.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I appreciate that, and you're bringing up some names and bringing back memories. Ingham Palmer, of course, Tom Young, and all of those guys. And I grew up listening to those guys. So I appreciate it very much. Thanks for the memories, Emmett, and I like the Maritime Union idea.
Thanks very much.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. I always get carried away listening to the Beatles. I just can't help it, folks. Abbey Road, one of the best albums of all time, in my humble opinion. 902-405-6000. Quick email from John, then back to the phones. John says this: Canadians need to stop being so nice. Just because the Liberal Party is going to have a new leader doesn't change the damage they did to this country. You only have to look at your front door at the homeless situation, opening the floodgates to immigration, people struggling to make ends meet, seniors working well past retirement age. That alone suggests it's time for a change. If people think Justin did all this on his own, they have another thing coming. Just because Justin is leaving doesn't mean we should give the Liberals another chance. 10 years was enough. Stop being so nice, Canada. We need a change. I would like my kids to own a home or have a family of their own someday. Pierre Poilievre can be a pit bull, but perhaps we need a pit bull to deal with the pit bull down south. Comes from John. 902-405-6000. Gustavo, hello.
Hi, Todd. I love your show. I believe you were talking about Trump postponing the tariffs. I just turned on my radio.
Yeah.
He's not acting like a serious statesman by having it postponed once again, having an ongoing threat that never realizes. I'm not sure how he wants to be taken seriously, because this cannot be serious anymore. There are so many economists. I think it's a consensus between economists that this will be to the detriment of both countries. U.S. is going to lose jobs, and Canada, both economies are going to suffer. Also, his argument is that U.S. would be funding Canada because they import more from Canada than Canada does so from the U.S. So many economists have debunked that. If you take the crude oil that U.S. buys from Canada, both countries break even, as far as I'm concerned. So there is no economic justification for the tariff, whatsoever. So I don't know. I don't think he wants to be treated as a serious statesman, because it doesn't seem like so. Also, if he's doing the tariffs as a threat to annex Canada, this is just absurd. Canada is a well-established democracy. We're not like Panama or like Greenland. We are a well-established country, well-established democracy. We're never going to take that. It's just absurd. I don't think, however, Poilievre, and I'm a big supporter of Poilievre, is also responding to it the way he should. Canada has its shortcomings. It's true that Canada doesn't invest in its military as much as it should, because it's a NATO member. So Canada should indeed increase its military expanding. So Trump should have no argument, no justification for what he's saying. Even that there's a fentanyl crisis. Come on, if we really look into the amount of guns, weapons, criminals, illegal immigrants that come from the U.S. border to Canada, it's much more than what is going from Canada to the U.S. So it's just hilarious. Trump is just hilarious. Again, he's a TV personality. He's a failed businessman who came to be their president. That has to do with their issues. They elect a person like this, not ours. Now, I'm excited for Poilievre because I think he's going to respond to that better than the Trump administration. Sorry, the Trudeau administration, though. But I don't think even Poilievre is giving the right answer. Okay, Trump wants to negotiate. Let's negotiate. Let's say, okay, we're going to increase our military spending. Poilievre has already said he's going to take care of the fentanyl crisis. So that's good about Poilievre. But really comes to negotiations that say, hey, there's no economic benefit for you by doing that. And we're not going to bow to you because we are a well-established democracy. So I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. When it comes to his rationale or his reasoning, when it comes to subsidizing, as though Americans are subsidizing us, it's ridiculous. It's what it is. I mean, the arguments are farcical. They're ludicrous. And you're right. Economists across the board would debunk and have debunked it. That said, though, Gustavo, public opinion matters in the United States, and the Republicans and they listen to everything that he says and accept it as gospel. And there doesn't appear to be anybody willing to, in the American establishment, stand up and tell him that. So what's going to have to happen?
Well,
what's going to have to happen, Gustavo, is that we're going to have to roll the dice, let this thing happen, and see how it shakes out, and see how it impacts the American economy. And if in fact the economists are right, and it hurts Americans, that'll eventually sway all of this, and that's the only thing that's going to matter at this point.
Before I go, what you said about public speakers on American soil, there aren't really defending us the way public opinion is easily manipulated in the U.S. It really upsets me that public speakers, Canadian public speakers like Jordan Peterson, instead of arguing for us, are almost like endorsing Trump.
Yeah, Kevin O'Leary's another one.
Mr. Wonderful, right?
Yeah, Mr. Wonderful
is more interested about his own interests. He hasn't ever spoken for Canadians ever since.
It's a shame. It really is. It's a shame. You know what kind of reminds me of? You know what, Gustavo? You know what it kind of reminds me of is that families. This is often said that families can criticize each other, but outsiders don't criticize my family. I'll stick up for my family every time. And I think that's part of it. We need. Yes, we have problems, we have challenges, we have issues, and we should address them. And that all said, though, we need champions, and we need people to strengthen and support our sovereignty and stand up for our sovereignty when all is said and done.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, I'll let another speaker or another caller.
Okay, thanks, Gustavo. I appreciate it very much. 902-405-6000. Dan, hello.
Hi, Todd. Hi. I agree with the previous caller. I think that, in a way, that the best way we can strengthen our sovereignty is not to do these self-destructive acts like retaliatory tariffs. It's very tempting to do that. There's a feeling of, you don't want to look like you can be pushed around, but I think he was counting on retaliatory tariffs because he knows that would damage our economy. And if he could take our sovereignty today, he would do it. But he can't right now because our economy is solid. But if we damage it, if we're tricked into damaging it, he could eventually, I'm not sure exactly how they would do it, but they could really make us subservient to them. I think the details of how they're going to do it are being worked out.
Yeah.
But I think we should not take the bait and damage the already thin margins of businesses all over the country.
So what do you mean by take the bait, Dan? What's that? What do you mean by that?
Well, there's a real in the debates, for example, you could tell everybody wanted to retaliate. Everybody wanted to damage the economy of the United States as much as possible.
Yeah.
And we're like conjoined twins, If one twin is hurt, the other one is hurt. We are literally joined. And so I think he wanted us to retaliate because he knew that it would weaken us and it would make his ultimate goal, taking our sovereignty, that much easier, you see.
Yeah.
If he could do it, if he could take our sovereignty today, he would. But he knows he can't right now.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
Okay, Dan, thanks for the call. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for the calls, everybody, and we shall see how this all shakes out. But we do appreciate your participation. We'll open the phone lines again tomorrow between 11 and 12. All right, it's the last Thursday of the month. That means it's time to talk to Dr. Jeff Goodall, who runs and owns Centerview Animal Care Center in Bedford. If you've got a pet-related question or concern, give us a call. 902-405-6000. Ask the vet when we come back.
X.
All right, it's time for our Ask the Vet segment with Dr. Jeff Goodall, Centerview Animal Care Center in Bedford. Dr. Jeff Goodall, welcome to the show. As always, we appreciate it very much.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Todd. It's always a good experience for me, too, so appreciate it.
Excellent. All right, if you've got a question for the vet, give us a call, veteran. For the veterinarian, give us a call at 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Again, 902-405-6000. And Jeff will do his very best to help you out as best he can. Before we get to the phone lines, Jeff, anything you want to pass along to anybody or
So I'm going to be positive. I mean, we've got some crappy weather coming again, and I have a head cold from it all now. But I was thinking, with everything that's going on down south, we might want to, people want to plan their summer vacations, and I'm going to be biased and say stay in Canada. But let's talk about some road trip planning. It's early, you could argue, but it's actually not that early. Keep in mind that if you want a road trip with your dog or cat, or any other pet for that matter, most animals are going to associate getting in the car with going to the mean old vet. So we need to basically take some time to plan getting the pet adjusted to car rides, and really positive reinforcement with treats that's presuming the dog doesn't have car sickness can help a cat or dog associate the car with something enjoyable. Reassuring hugs or chin rubs. You can get into other things. I'll put something up on my links page to the website next month, probably now. But some planning ahead would be positive conditioning for dogs, especially using a mat, and that's called mat training. And again, I'll put a link on that to our link page. But ways to get your animal used to your car, you've got to start now or as soon as you can. Having said that, the other thing about planning ahead is, you're going to want to ensure you have a seat harness for your dog, a leash on your dog at all times, a collar with their ID. Same thing for cats, within reason, a breakaway collar with their ID on them, a carrier that they're used to being in, poop bags, cleaning up supplies and stuff like that, a toy for comfort, things like that. And then the other thing, and I think I'll end on this because I want to get to the calls,
sure.
Make sure you take your pet's records with you. If you're worried about your dog's anxiety or your cat's anxiety, have a visit, consultation, and exam, and likely blood work with your vet well in advance, because we forget, things get in the way, and we forget to plan for these things, and then it's a big inconvenience for everybody. And so, I'll end on, plan ahead. I used to travel with my cats and carriers. My dog was always in the back seat of my vehicle. Holding your dog on your lap or your cat on your lap, especially in the front seat, is really dangerous. So you want to start planning now, and talk to your vet, email your vet for more information, or look on the Centerview link page next month. There you go.
Okay, fair enough. 902-405-6000. Stephen, hello.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you, Todd?
Well, I'm doing well.
I have a question for the veterinarian. My cat is a 13-year-old male cat, and he was recently diagnosed with diabetes. And because he had never had an insulin injection, we put him on Sinvelgo. And I'm just trying to figure out, before I go to my vet, is there any side effects to the medication? I've noticed that my cat has scabs around his body, and I took him to the vet, and she said it was due to fleas, but my cat has never been around another animal and never had fleas, and I just question the judgment on that call, and I was hoping that maybe you could. I'm thinking it might be ringworm or something like that. I don't know, but all I know is that my cat doesn't have fleas, and he's got these scabs and he only had them since he's taken some Velgo.
Okay, so Velgo, for the listeners, is a relatively new oral medication that may help many cats with, doesn't exist for dogs right now, for diabetes. Honestly, we've used it in the practice. I've never heard of a cat having skin problems. As I'm sitting here at my desk, I'm Googling quickly or going through the veterinary information network, and there doesn't seem to be anything about that. Do you live in a house or an apartment, sir?
I'm sorry?
Do you live in a house or do you live in an apartment?
I live in an apartment, but it has laminated floors.
Okay, well, anyway, so it is likely your vet is right. If you live in an apartment, I'm not seeing fleas. I don't understand this. I run into it every, weekly in the exam room. And what's happened is somebody else in the apartment building has an animal with fleas. And the flea, they move 20 feet at a time. They can, their average jump distance is 10 feet. So, they can move around pretty quick. And it isn't unusual. You may have dragged one in on your cuffs of your pants. It bit your cat. It's an allergic reaction is what's happening. It's not an infection, though it could become one. So my point is, your question is, will Velgo likely cause skin issues? And I'm seeing their website here and looking for reported additional effects, and I don't see it. So I'll go, unfortunately, I have to side with your veterinarian here and say it's likely flea allergy dermatitis. And it's frustrating.
I gave him the drop on the back of his neck for fleas last month, and yet he still continues.
Yes, well, that's because you need to talk to your veterinarian a little more. It takes 4 months for the symptoms to go away. So it's not like you put that drop on and the problem's gone. The reaction in your cat's skin can take months to resolve, and you need to keep using the medication monthly during that period. I would argue it's likely you have someone in your apartment building who has an animal that's untreated. It's very common. It's very frustrating for owners, but it is extremely common. And I just, like I said, I'm on the website. I'm on another information site scrambling to see, and there's nothing here about skin irritations. I'm not saying it's not impossible. I want to be clear on that. But I'm not seeing anything. Here we go. I found another bit of information here. Give me one quick sec. Skin. Wow, there's a lot of reporting on additional effects, and none of them, I just like saying it this way, none of them are skin. So there you go. Yeah, that's a pretty elaborate study here. So there you go. I mean, flea allergy dermatitis is extremely upsetting for most owners. So I understand your frustration, but Velgo is a good choice for the diabetes. There you go.
I got to get more doses of Revolution, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, or Advantage. But I'd email your vet and just tell him what's going on because you're frustrated. Our job is customer service in addition to being good medicine providers and good diagnostic providers. But unfortunately, sir, I see it all the time. I really am frustrated for you. And it's very, your cats get scabby and they get upset and you're like, I don't see the fleas. It just takes one bite and the Advantage is killing off all the fleas in your apartment. So that's great. But that doesn't mean fleas towards the end of the month aren't going to get under that door sill or follow you in and bite your cat and then die and lay more eggs. It's frustrating. There you go.
It is very frustrating.
Thanks.
I thank you for your expertise and your advice, and I will follow that advice.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care, pal. 902-405-6000. Marcia, hello.
Hi, how are you today?
We're well.
Great. I have a question. I have a flat-coated retriever, so a fairly big dog. We were out in the park yesterday, and when we came home, she was showing no signs of discomfort, but later on in the night, she started limping on her back right hind leg. She's a little weight-bearing on it, but not a lot. She seems very depressed about it, actually. If she does stand up and move on it, she'll lay down immediately. I've been able to kind of touch her leg and manipulate it, so there doesn't seem to be anything super acute, but I did touch her around her paw and ankle area, and she growled at me, which is not her at all. So I don't know if it's something immediate that I should go and take her in, or is it a rest and wait and see kind of situation, or would it get worse now that she's rested, and then now it's just showing up where it wasn't showing up when we were leaving the park?
Okay, so flat-coated retrievers are such knuckleheads, right? And they run hard, and they they run hard. So, look, I would have a friend, family member, whatever, hold. Is it a him or her?
It's a her.
So have her hold her head, give them some treats or something as you're examining the leg more fully. It's the back leg or a front leg?
It's the back leg.
Okay, so check that lower ankle is what you're talking about, and that whole foot, and have a bright light source, hold a flashlight, a pen light in your mouth or something, or you have somebody else hold their cell phone with their light on. Have a look between the toes. Let's presume it's trauma, injury, whatever, from running on something. And if you may not find the wound. Remember, sticks, splinters, things like that, ice can cut the skin, but in almost like a hypodermic way. And so the animal doesn't show an obvious wound. But in the end, check that part. Your worst case, I don't think you have to rush to the vet. I think it's worth, 48 hours of just care at home, maybe a hot pack or a warm, magic bag on the lower leg to see if that helps. And it's not an emergency you have to go in over the weekend, because 2 days I've just pushed you into the weekend. But if Monday morning or Sunday afternoon you're like, this is not getting better, or more importantly, and this is the important message here, if your puppy is acting normally in the house and kind of walks around with a little bit of a limp but not really that bad, then you go outside and she goes for a Zoomy and she pulls that leg up again, then Monday you need to make an appointment. It's not an emergency. Emergency clinics are overwhelmed, and we don't need to be putting you through that. If she's holding her leg up and yet she's not crying, then I'm worried about her knee ligaments, specifically a cruciate ligament. And that would be your next biggest concern, because that's very difficult for the average owner to diagnose in the home. But I would get somebody to hold her head, give her treats, check that foot out, check between the toes, both from above and below, check between the pads. And then lots of kisses, lots of TLC in a warm magic bag, and see how the weekend goes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. We worry about these guys, and she's our fur baby for sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Take care at 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us for our Ask the Vet segment with Dr. Jeff Goodall. Ask the Vet continues when we come back.
Thanks.
All right, it's our Ask the Vet segment with Dr. Jeff Goodall, Centerview Animal Care Center in Bedford. Give us a call. We'll get some open lines for you if you've got a question for Jeff. 902-405-6000. That's the way to do it. Again, 902-405-6000. Bill, hello.
Hi, Todd.
Hi there.
A little question for the boss man.
Sure.
Pet cemeteries. How close can you have a pet cemetery to your business?
Well, what a good question. Haven't thought about this for a while. I only know of one that's close. I think there's a second one, and I can Google it after the fact, or you can too. There's one that's up in, give me a minute. It's between Truro and, the halfway to the equator place. It's up there. It used to be owned by, I think it still is owned by the Halifax Veterinary Group. That's Halifax Vet. Fairview Animal Hospital and Spryfield Animal Hospital. And it is a cemetery up there with beautifully well kept. One of my own animals is there. My mother's dog is there. And I go and visit it fairly frequently. So there's that one. I think there's another, and again, I'd have to Google it, towards Ardois, though I could be mistaken on that. It's been years since I even thought about it. All I'll say for the listening, so that's your answer to your question. But all I'll say for the listening audience, go ahead.
I'll tell you why I asked that question. I have a cemetery, Pleasant Hill Cemetery, and we were considering putting a pet cemetery close by next to it. And we ran into problems with one of the government people who didn't like it at all. And for some reason, it seemed to me as though they kind of put a thing out there that there couldn't be any around the area at all. And so that's why I was wondering, because I haven't noticed anybody trying to do one since in close to the Sackville area. In other words, is it restricted period, or do you know?
Oh, I would have not way beyond my area, my friend. I have to deal with what I got to deal with. That's, again, I don't know the answer to your question on that angle. For the listening audience, a lot of clients nowadays just have their pet's ashes remains cremated, because visiting the pet cemetery can be a bit of a challenge for some, especially the elderly. But yeah, good luck with that endeavor. I have no idea what you're going to run into.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Take care. 902-405-6000. Bert, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well.
Good. My first time calling, so I'm a bit nervous.
Okay.
But anyway, what I wanted to know was, I have been going to this vet for a while, and he had a hot spot, and I took him in a few months ago to have him treated for this hot spot. Then, of course, a couple of months went by, and he needed needles. He was due for his needles. Now, when I was in for the hot spot, they did a full physical, charged me the full price for the full physical. Why is it when I went back a couple of months later, they insisted that they had to charge me for another full physical? Could I not have had that classified as a full physical for the year?
Look, it's difficult for me to comment on another practice's policies, just so we're clear. But it's a good question. And all I can speak of is what goes on in our clinic. And so, yes, okay. I think you have a valid concern. I'd like to think that our clinic, and we do try, that if you're within 2 months either side of your annual exam, so in other words, in your case, you were 2 months prior, but if a client comes in 2 months later for a hot spot, and we spy a derma, and it's like, hey, you're a couple months past your boosters. If it doesn't compromise the animal's health, then let's get the boosters done at the same time as the skin issue. So I think it's worth an email to the clinic and have a discussion with their practice manager, office manager, whatever, and say, hey, can we come to some middle ground here? I think if you can honestly look yourself in the eye and say, hey, at that time, 2 months ago or whatever it was, I would have paid the difference in price, and considered doing it all, if you will, as long as the animal's health isn't compromised and the treatments don't conflict with each other, because that can happen too. Then yeah, right. I think it's a bona fide concern. If nothing else, for the next person who goes through this, for the next dog or cat who goes through this, it's a good reminder for all of us to, make sure we look at the patient record and go, hey, are we within a month or two at most of the annual? Can we fit that in? But in hindsight, you're probably not going to, get what you want out of this. But I think it's a great idea to bring it up with the clinic. We can always learn, right? We can always learn better customer service. I've made my mistakes over the years. I've made them. I hate to say it, but I want to learn every day. So let's let them learn too. There you go.
Well, exactly, and I thank you very much. And the reason I'm asking is because I'm a pensioner and I'm on a fixed income. So $135 to me is a lot of money. And that was my question, why?
Yeah, I agree. I think that we all need to remind ourselves when we're going in that, hey, it's within a couple months of my annual, can we put it together in one go? And I think the onus is on the clinic, in my personal opinion or professional opinion, but even we can screw up, and we do our best.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for the call. Take care. 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us for our Ask the Vet segment with Dr. Jeff Goodall. Runs the Sunnyview Animal Care Center in Bedford. Give us a buzz, 902-405-6000. Ask the Vet continues when we come back. All right, it's our Ask the Vet segment with Dr. Jeff Goodall, runs Sunnyview Animal Care Center in Bedford. Give us a call at 902-405-6000 if you've got a question for our vet, 902-405-6000. Karen, hello.
Hi, Todd. How are you today?
I'm well, you?
Good. Hi, Dr. Goodall. I have a question. I have a 12-year-old Valley Bulldog. And we are getting ready to move. So I'm moving from a house to an apartment. The dog seems to be sensing things because there's a lot of strange people coming and going. And I just don't know what should I do to kind of ease his transition into apartment life?
No, what a good question, and relatively complicated. I mean, Valley Bulls are... Yeah, well, it is a little bit. I mean, Valley Bulls are, they mix a beautiful set of issues. They're spazzes and crazy, and then they're so sensitive. I guess you could argue all dogs are, but anyway. Okay, so you're moving from a house to an apartment, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm just thinking. So one thing I would do is, have you visited the place you're moving into?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good. So it's sort of like what I opened up with at least initially, with trying to get your pet used to an unusual situation. So, talk to your vet, email them, whatever. Don't have to have a visit, I wouldn't think. About Adaptil, which is a calming pheromone that can be, you could use a plug-in in the new apartment. It won't bother them while they're painting it or whatever. And it basically gives a calming pheromone to the apartment building itself. There's aromatherapy. I've read sandalwood and chamomile and lavender can reduce anxiety and have a positive influence on things like this. If your dog is really anxious, you can always start mat training, which is something you can Google or talk to, Bob Ottenbright or Sublime Canine. They're all great trainers. Or you can Google mat training, where you basically train the dog to a mat. And that is a great idea for not only car travel, but for thunderstorm anxiety and anxiety of new places. And what you do, I'm paraphrasing, you'd have to Google it, but you train the dog that the mat is a calm place, a safe place with treats and positive reinforcement. You have a question you were saying?
Kind of like his bed is now. Like he has several mats in the house.
Choose his favorite bed and condition him to it, and Google mat training for dogs or positive reinforcement, right?
Okay.
I mean, worst case scenario, is your dog generally scared of...
No, that's it. Like he's not...
We'll be fine.
Yeah.
We'll be fine then.
Like he loves thunder and lightning. He likes to watch fireworks. Like he's kind of weird like that. So I have a family member that the dog knows quite well. Would it be too much of a transition if he went and stayed with them for a couple of days and then we moved him into the apartment? Would that be
No, I doubt it would be. I doubt it'd be a problem.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Valley Bulls just love everything pretty much. I don't recall meeting a nasty one ever, so I could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
But, I think it's a great question. Look up that mat training. That's great for all the listening audience, too. Mat training saves a lot of problems.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, thanks for the call. Take care.
Okay. Have a great day.
902-405-6000. John, hello.
Good afternoon. I have a question about a 9-year-old female cat that's, for the first time this week, has had almost a tremor. I would describe it as a tremor. A ripple in the fur. You can see it sometimes goes right from the rear of the cat almost to the head of the cat and then disappears. And it seems almost muscular. I Googled it, and they said could be serious, and I wondered if you had any more information.
Well, okay, look, it could be serious. Google's sort of useful and sort of not useful. I mean, if you're due for your annual exam, I think it's worth getting your cat in and having a once-over just in case what you're seeing, just in case what you're seeing is early seizure activity. However, and you do need to do that. I can't overstress that. You do need to have the exam just to make sure that there's nothing developing. And it would be great if before the exam you could take a video or two, short, like 10, 15, 20 seconds, of the cat doing what you're seeing. Having said that, it's more than likely, some people call it rolling skin disease. Yeah. Hyperesthesia syndrome is the fancy word we have to give it. And it's an increased sensitivity. It can happen in any cat at any age, but it typically is middle-aged and older cats. And it can be as mild as what you're talking about. Stimulation of the skin, kind of a quiver like horses when they're shaking their skin in a way to get a fly off. You can see these weird little rippling or rolling effects. It can, but the reason you need to have this examined, and I do mean this, is some cats, it'll accelerate. It'll become reaction based. In other words, right now you're just seeing it when the cat's lying passively, but you start petting the cat that normally would take the petting very well, and they'll scream at you, or they'll twitch and be irritated and maybe react. And some cats, and I have seen this, they start biting their paws, they start overdoing their tails, over grooming. It can look like a flea bite allergy, which was what the first gentleman talked about. So the theory is it's a type of compulsive order, if my memory's right. It's easily treated if we catch it early, and there's pheromones, there's medication if absolutely necessary. Sometimes there's distraction therapy that your vet can talk about. If it's seizures, then it's phenobarbital, gabapentin, things like that. If it's hyperesthesia syndrome, worst case scenario, and we do this, put the animal on Prozac. It's not expensive. It's a liquid. It's not hard to give. But you do need to have it looked at, especially if this accelerates. I'm not going to say it's going to be overnight. You've got a week, 2 or 3 to figure this out. It's hard to figure out a stimulus for it. So don't, twist yourself into knots trying to figure out why the cat is doing it. But my concern is, and the one I remember, well, actually 2 that I remember in my mind now, were cats that the owners mentioned this rippling effect. And really within a few months, maybe within 6 months, they started self-mutilating their tails and their feet. So it's a great question. It's great for the audience to hear this. Rolling skin disease or hyperesthesia syndrome is what I want it to be, if it is anything at all. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good luck. Take care. 902-405-6000. Jackie. Hello, Jackie.
Hi, Todd and Dr. Goodall. I have a easy question, I think, but 2 cats, one's 13 and one's 4. And I just would love your professional opinion on cat treats, specifically the cheap Temptations ones that my cats go absolutely lunatic for. Like, bad behavior everywhere. I try not to reward it, but just wondering what your thoughts on those cheap cat treats are.
Oh, that's a really tough question. I mean, I don't have an opinion one way or the other, because, I mean, treats, you should look at treats for any pet, whether it's dog, cat, I can see it in my face, African pygmy hedgehogs, all those things. Treats are a treat. They're like potato chips. You use them for calming, for happiness, for interaction with your animal. But almost all, not all, but almost all treats are actually unhealthy, right? By nature, they're usually filled with things that make the cat addicted or the dog addicted to them. So, in moderation, any treat, whether it's cheap or expensive, is okay. I mean, there are better treats out there. And I'm not going to sit there and name brands because that's just self-serving. But not all of the veterinary treats are all that great, to be honest with you. It comes down to, moderation, and I would keep it that simple. I know there's been some scuttlebutt on Google about Temptations being bad and good and this and that and the other thing. Just be careful what you read on Google. Google's used to be really helpful. I'm not very impressed with it lately, but there you go.
Cool. So it's just one more question. Do you have a recommended cat treat that you would reach for?
Yes, but I would say talk to your vet. I'm not going to sit there and say this pet treat. We do have treats that are made by a higher quality controlled manufacturer. That doesn't mean that Temptations don't have some quality control, but let's be straight. You're getting what you pay for to a point.
Absolutely.
But I want to be clear, to a point. I'm not saying that the most expensive dog foods or cat foods are all that much better either. But no, I'm not going to promote one brand over another unless I absolutely have to in the exam room. There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Good luck. 902-405-6000. Ask the Vet continues when we come back. Right, it's our Ask the Vet segment. We'll talk to Jeff Goodall, runs Sunnyview Animal Care Center in Bedford. Give us a buzz, 902-405-6000 if you've got a question in relation to your pet. Peter, hello.
Hey, how's it going? Good afternoon. Doctor, I have a 10-year-old female cat, inside only. I'd say a couple months ago, a couple months ago, she was coughing a lot, more from a dry cough, wheeze, slight head lowered when she was coughing, and it was not just like a one cough incident that she would cough 2 or 3 times in a row. Took her to the vet, took an x-ray, semi-diagnosed, but I don't think with full confidence, likely asthma. Went on, and excuse me if I get it wrong, but prednisone or prednisone, or I can't recall.
It's prednisolone. It's prednisolone.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, we went on. She went on a daily, I'll call it a high dose or whatever the vet said, for about a week. We did see improvements. The cough was not stopping by no means. Slight more energy, just a different, more happier morale, basically, maybe coming from her. So, of course, we weaned her off that and was just monitoring her. It never did go away. In the meantime, we bought air purifiers, changed the litter to dustless. All along, We've been kind of playing with some food. And then, so recently, but through this transition after we weaned her off, and then we went to the vet a few weeks ago, and he put her on, I'm going to say, a 3/4 dose of the same steroid. Again, I'm not sure exact doses because my wife does it, but not really improving. But my biggest thing is over this time, it's now gone. I think it's pure liquid / phlegm cough. It's usually one cough to clear the phlegm, but she snores now, which she never used to do. And I think she's uncomfortable because of just the amount of fluid phlegm that I hear. It's not the dry cough. So I'm just not. Okay. She goes to the vet tomorrow, but I just thought since you're here, I thought I'd give you a call.
Okay, so look, coughing cats are the bane of most veterinarians' existence. Coughing cats shouldn't be coughing at all. And so your vet was making the right choices with prednisolone. And so we're clear. It's my understanding, I'm not going to say I'm always right, but thank God I'm rarely wrong, that prednisolone can be used at extremely high doses. I don't think your cat is on high dose, but in cats quite safely, unlike dogs and people. Cats and cows tolerate extremely high doses when we need to do that. So don't worry about additional effects. Well, be aware, but don't be overly concerned about additional effects. But the problem is this coughing. Yes, the most common cause of cough, in my experience in cats, is feline asthma. No doubt about it. So your vet is in the right zone and everything is fine otherwise. But especially it responded does not mean that the dose was, because your cat responded to the medication in this case does not necessarily mean it was the correct diagnosis, because prednisone can, and it is the first thing to try, but it can actually mask other causes of coughing. And let's go into those. So inflammation or irritation of the airways. It's usually allergies, but it can be inhaled things, which is where you're going with air purifiers and smoke and plant fragments. It can be an infection developing. Typically in Nova Scotia, we don't see too many fungi or parasitic problems in the lungs, but bacteria and viruses are up there. Pneumonia would be one I would think about. Tracheal collapse. Or I have to say it, how old's your cat?
10, rough, approximately, yeah.
Well, it's in the zone, so longer airway tumors would have to be thought about. And then the one that everybody seems to skip over, or owners are surprised in the room when I cover it, is heart disease. And congestive heart failure can show up as just simple coughing. And you're talking about a productive cough, something's coming up. So I'm thinking, right, you said there was something coming up, being swallowed or coughed out?
Yeah, no, it just sounds phlegmy, like it's very wet cough now, where before it was a dry wheeze type of stuff.
Right.
Right now it's pure wet.
Right. So asthma should be a dry cough. So I'm thinking pneumonia or heart disease, to be honest. And did your vet do x-rays at the time of the initial diagnosis, or were they offered?
No, he did. They were offered, and we had an x-ray done. I wasn't there, my wife was, but there was some showings, of course, that it could be asthma. But so that's kind of the track that he went down. I'm just more concerned where it went from dry to phlegmy.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a one cough, just clear your throat. Like she clears her throat and she flip flops from one side to the other when she's laying down, and you could tell she's doing that, and then she'll cough once. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, write down basically, hey, doc, for your wife or you when you're in the exam room, because making notes ahead of time makes it easy. Video the cough a couple of times, 10, 15 seconds only. It's hard because you may miss the cough. Talk to them about pneumonia. Talk to them about infection or inflammation in the respiratory system otherwise, which you could argue is pneumonia, heart disease, or airway tumors. And don't be surprised if they repeat the x-ray, because unfortunately, x-rays the TV shows make it look so diagnostic. Unfortunately, x-rays are more, they rule things out than they necessarily diagnostically rule things in. They don't always show in the early stages what's going on. And so another thorough physical, expect that, and maybe even some blood work. I'm not saying for sure I would be doing blood work, but I think a red and white blood cell count, or also what's called a CBC or complete blood count, would be minimum. And then chest x-rays repeated. Just write this down, 3-view x-rays. I'm not saying the vets are wrong, but there is more evidence. I just came back from a continuing education forum, which is probably where I got this cold. And again, the speakers were talking about the importance of 3 views. So not just one lateral, but a lateral on either side and one on while the cat lays on its back. And take it from there. Caught early, these are relatively easily treated, even if it is heart disease. And go. There you go.
Okay. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thanks for the call. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk to Penny. Hello, Penny.
Oh, hi. Dr. Goodall, 13-year-old cat who is not using the litter box anymore. She's pooping and peeing on the floor. Her litter is clean. I haven't changed brand or anything. She doesn't seem to think that she's doing anything wrong. She doesn't seem stressed at all. She's purring, blinking, and rolling all over the floor. Any suggestions?
Have you had the cat examined yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, then you really got to start there. Because it's probably behavioral. Let's be straight. It is probably behavioral. But, we can't just, like telemedicine, which is what the radio show is, telemedicine tell you, just go get some calming pheromone and off you go. Bladder infections, which are subtle in some cats, bladder stones. And here's an interesting one that clients tend to forget. Constipation can actually show up as not wanting to use the box. And then the client will say, well, but I still see poop. I won't get into the dynamics of it, but if there's a ball of concentrated fecal matter sort of in the mid-colon, it can actually be uncomfortable for the cat. And as the cat forces stool around the blockage, it can turn relatively back to a normal consistency. And so they poop a normal stool, and yet that's the problem. The cat is uncomfortable, doesn't know what to do. And then the other one that surprises owners is arthritis. Sometimes some cats are just so painful, they just going to go where they're going to go because walking over the lip of the box is a problem. Then there's the other side of it, behavior, which is really where it probably will go. I'm presuming your cat's healthy otherwise. Territorial anxiety, then those kind of things end up being treated with hormone plugins like pheromones. Sometimes I had a cat, one of our cats, Mercedes. Nothing worked with her until I put her on Prozac, fluoxetine. And it solved the problem. And we needed to do some blood work ahead of time to make sure there's not very many additional effects with Prozac, but we had to make sure everything was okay. So expect a workup, expect an X-ray, maybe one simple lateral X-ray or side X-ray, some blood work, and a discussion with your vet. It's going to sound crazy, and I know I'm taking up a lot of time on this, but sometimes writing out a map of your house and having an idea of what other pets are involved or new family members or people that transit in and out of the house, those could be stressors for the cat. And having a map of the house for your vet to kind of look at it and go, maybe we need a second litter box in a different area. Again, that's behavioral because the rule is one litter box for each cat plus one.
Okay.
So there's a lot there to think about. We were going to run out of time. So
yeah, we're at Penny. Thanks for the call. Hopefully that helps.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, take care. Dr. Jeff Goodall, thanks so much, my friend. Appreciate it. We'll do it again next month.
Take care, Todd. Everybody be kind to each other out there and your pets.
All right, take care. You got it. That's Jeff Goodall, runs the Sunnyview Animal Care Center in Bedford. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'd like to thank Vanessa Vandeness as well on the other side of the glass. The control board's doing a fine job, as always. We're back tomorrow at 10 o'clock. See you then.